Want to create a polished crop collar top that looks store-bought without having to leave the house? Today we're making the sheep crop collar top using the Trinity stitch for that perfect textured look. It's versatile enough to dress up or keep casual, and I'll show you every step of the way. If you're new here, I share modern crochet tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Hit subscribe so you never miss one. And if you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it helps keep these tutorials free. So without further ado, let's get started on the sheep collar top. Any category 4 yarn will work. I used a total of 270 grams, that's 540 yards if you're stateside, along with a 6mm hook. Pattern link below. Use code TCDDIY for a discount on orders over $9.99. Stay to the end for this week's giveaway. We're using 5 stitches for this collared croppie. They're on screen now. Pause to check it out. This tutorial is for size small. You can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so without further ado, here's how to crochet your own collared crop top. Getting this chic, wardrobe-ready crop top started, we're shaping our shoulder with the beautiful Trinity stitch. So we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're going to grab our 6mm hook and start by making an odd number chain that reaches from the top of our shoulder down to the bottom of the top, keeping in mind there's going to be a bottom band. Mine's going to be a crop top, so I'm going to start by making chain 51. That's 14.5 inches or 37 centimeters, but you can make yours full length if you want. And mine is actually all done. So I'm just going to do a small sample size with you. This elegant textured stitch creates a sophistication that's sure to grab compliments. Best of all, it's easy peasy. Just add 3 loops to your working yarn, then pull through those 4. Sophisticated, simple to make, and spoiler for later, highly versatile. Now that we have our chain, remembering mine's a sample size, we're going to block off that last chain and chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Now to do the first Trinity stitch will be done a little differently than the rest. We're going to start by single crocheting into that second chain from our hook. So here's our first, here's our second. Into that second chain, start with just 1 single. Then, like in the intro, we're going to pull up 3 loops. So we're first going to insert our hook into that same chain that our single crochet is in. So insert, pull through to get a total of 2 loops on our hook. We ultimately want 4 loops on our hook. So into that next chain, we're going to insert, pull through for 3. Into that next chain, pull through for 4. Once we have all 4, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4. That should kind of gather everything at a corner like this. And to complete our Trinity stitch, we're just going to chain 1. And we all want to make sure we're using a relaxed tension for that chain 1 so that the next row is smooth to work into. Now for this row, we should have a total of 1, 2, 3 stitches, and our first Trinity stitch is completed. Now to do the second one, it's going to be done same idea, but a little bit differently. So we're all going to start by inserting our hook into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into. So into that last stitch, we're going to insert, pull through, still pulling up 4 loops. So into that next, pull through, and into that following chain as well, pull through for 1, 2, 3, 4. Then yarn over, pull through 4, complete the Trinity stitch with a chain 1. We want to remember that we're not forgetting that chain 1. Now we're all going to repeat our second Trinity stitch until we have 2 chains left. So once more, into that last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, we're going to insert, pull up, next chain, pull up, next chain, pull up for 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 4, and don't forget that chain 1. And we should all have 1, 2 chains left. Now the last Trinity stitch is going to be done a little bit differently as well, but same idea. So insert your hook into that last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through. Then into that next stitch, which should be our second to last, pull through. Then into that last, pull through for a total of 4 loops on our hook. We're still going to yarn over and pull through 4, but for the last Trinity stitch, instead of doing a chain 1, we're going to single crochet into that same last chain that we're worked into. So insert and pull through. Now we should all have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. And remember earlier when I mentioned that this stitch was really versatile? Here's one of my favorite tricks that makes this piece really stand out. We're going to add a half double crochet row after this Trinity row. It creates extra flow and gives that modern ribbing effect. So let's add that special touch here. So we're going to chain 2 and flip our work. Now all we're going to do is just half double all the way down. So yarn over, into that first stitch, we're going to pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. That's our first half double, and we're just going to put one half double into every stitch that we have. That should give us the same amount of stitches as our previous row. We just completed our second row, and since this top is just a 2-row repeat, we're looking pretty good. So let's just all do the Trinity stitch row one more time just to make sure we all have it down. So for the Trinity rows, we're going to chain 1, flip our work. The first one's going to start with a single crochet. So into that first stitch, just with a single, then we need to pull up loops. So inserting our hook into that same stitch that our single crochet is in, we're going to pull through for 2 loops. Next stitch, pull through for 3. Next stitch, pull through for 4. Yarn over, pull through all 4. Don't forget to chain 1. Now to do the second Trinity stitch, we're going to insert our hook into that last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into for 2 loops. Next stitch for 3. Next stitch for 4 to get 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4, and again, chain 1. We're going to continue on with this Trinity till we all have 2 stitches left. Nearly done with our third row, we got 2 stitches left. To do the last Trinity stitch, we're going to insert our hook into that last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into that next stitch, which is our second to last, pull through, then into that next stitch, which is our last, pull through for 4. Yarn over, pull through 4, then only for the last one, instead of chaining 1, we're going to single crochet into that same last stitch. And we should end up with the same amount of stitches as our previous row again. And then chain 2, flip our work, 1 half double into every stitch. And want to know the secret to perfectly crafted shoulders? Rectangles, at least in this case. Turns out they create the coveted drop shoulder with minimal fuss, and that is exactly what we're doing here. And for this rectangle shoulder portion, all we're going to do is continue to repeat those 2 previous rows, no increases, no decreases, until we now have a portion that can reach from 2 inches past the tip of our shoulder, all the way over till we reach the side of the base of our neck. We want to make sure that we all end right after an odd number row so that will be a Trinity stitch row. Then right after that is the collar. Now since I have already completed my perfect drop shoulder, I'm going to let you guys know that I have a total of 15 rows. This width is just about 6 inches or 15 centimeters. Now to give this crop a tailored look, we're going to create a smooth collar base using decreases. Now if that sounds intimidating, don't worry. It's actually super duper similar to what we've already been doing, and I'm going to walk you guys through every single step. So what we're going to do is try our piece on. We're going to place the top of the shoulder at the top of our shoulder. We're going to insert our stitch marker into any even numbered stitch from the top that's nearest to the base of our neck. Now, the top is going to be the end where our hook isn't. So the hook and the tail end are actually going to be the bottom of the piece currently. And that stitch marker is going to be right where the base of our neck is. Now, I inserted my stitch marker into the 12th stitch from the top. That is 3 inches or 8 centimeters. Now we're going to half double all the way up, leaving 3 stitches right before our stitch marker. Then we're going to do our decrease. Our first neckline row almost finished. Now we're just going to do a decrease of 3 halves. So yarn over into that third to last, pull through, second to last, pull through, last, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook, yarn over, and pull through all 5. Kind of familiar, right? It's very similar to the Trinity stitch. Now the following row is going to be a Trinity stitch row. No increases, no decreases. But if we did our math correctly, we just want to make sure that we ended on an odd number of stitches. But just make your way down with the following Trinity stitch row, then we'll meet back. Now our first 2 neckline rows are done. Now for the rest of this half of the neckline, it's going to be a repeat of these 2 rows. Just to make sure we got the decreases down, since we're at the bottom, we're going to chain 2 and flip, half double all the way up, leaving the last 3 stitches, then we'll decrease together once more. Our third neckline row, almost done, we're going to decrease together again. Now yarn over, and just like the last one, we're going to pull up 5 loops. Now doing a decrease of 3 half doubles like this, make sure that all of these decrease rows ends on an odd number row, since our Trinity stitches needs to be worked in an odd number of stitches. And just like the last one, the Trinity stitch row, no increases, no decreases, so just make your way down with our Trinity stitch. Our first 4 neckline rows are done and dusted. Now we're just going to continue to repeat these 2 rows until we now have a portion that can reach center chest. So as a sizing tip, we want to make sure that the edge of our shoulder portion is still staying at the side of the base of our neck, because we are going to add a really cool collar right at the end. I will meet everyone back right after a Trinity stitch row that will be along the bottom, then we'll finish up the second half together. Now the collar's base is halfway completed. Now we'll do 1 half double crochet row that creates that clean polished slit that makes all the difference in our top. So what we're going to do is insert our stitch marker into any even numbered stitch from the top of our last row for the length that we'd like for our slit to be. Now this is completely up to you. I went ahead and inserted my stitch marker into the 6th stitch from the top. That's just about an inch or 2 centimeters. Now to do the following row, 1/2 double crochet into every stitch. Then I'll meet you back once we reach our stitch marker. Congrats! We are halfway to finishing this fall fashion staple. Now from here it is smooth sailing. Now as they say, what goes down must come up, or something like that. So we're switching over to increases basically. Now we're just shaping the rest of our collar base before we complete our shoulder and officially complete the front panel. So since we all should have ended right where our stitch marker is, we're all going to make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we skipped when we did this middle row. Now I skipped 6 stitches. So I made a chain of 6 because we need this to be equal. Now we're going to do our following Trinity stitch all the way down. Now as a refresher, block off that last chain, chain 1, and into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, start with our first Trinity stitch and just make our way all the way down per usual. So the first row for the increased side of our neckline, done. Now we're going to do the next, which is 1/2 double crochets and an increase of 3 into that last stitch. So make your way up, and I'll meet you back when we have 1 stitch left. We've 1/2 doubled all the way down. We should all have 1 stitch left, and to match the decrease on the side, we're going to do an increase of 3. So yarn over, into that last stitch with 1/2 double, same last stitch with a second, same last stitch with a third, and that's it. Now we're going to do our Trinity stitch row, just like the other side, no increases, no decreases. We're basically just mirroring the other side. And we're just repeating these rows until we have the same amount of rows as the other neckline side. When we have those rows, we are so close to being done, just a little bit more of our shoulder left to do. Look at us, we just completed that neckline increase. We handled it like a pro. Now we're gonna do the shoulder. Just to let you guys know, my total width is 10.5 inches or 27 centimeters, and this shoulder is gonna be done exactly the same way as the first. So since we all should have ended along the top, we're all going to make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we skipped when we got started on our neckline. So for those of you that have my numbers, I skipped 12 stitches here. So from where we're at, I'm going to make a chain 12. Then do our Trinity stitch row all the way down, no increases, no decreases. Then once we make our way down to the end of this row, we should actually have the same amount of stitches as our original chains that we made for our shoulder. Then we're just going to continue to repeat our Trinity and 1/2 double crochet row until we have the same amount of rows as our first shoulder. Once we do a chain up 1 and cut, then it is onward to the back. Now you've probably already noticed by now, but this stitch sequence has a clear front and back. Now the ribbed side reveals the texture and the beauty of the Trinity stitch, and that's exactly what we want to showcase. So this is going to be the front, while the reverse side, while still lovely in its own right, but for this top we're leading into that refined ribbed finish. Second shoulder, complete. The entirety of our front panel is all done. Now my total width is just about 16.5 inches or 42 centimeters. Next up is the back panel, and the best part? It's a rectangle. Now this is what's going to give us that cool, comfy look, so let's break this down. So working up our back panel, we're going to start with the same chain that we made for the front panel shoulder. Then all it's going to be is Trinity, 1/2 double crochet rows, no increases, no decreases, for the same amount of total rows that we have for the front panel. Once we have both of them completed, then we can seam everything together. So once we have both panels completed, seaming up the shoulder is up next. So we're going to place our front panel on top of our back panel, but we want to make sure that the ribbing for the front and the ribbing for the back are touching each other. It's kind of like they're kissing. And then we're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then we're going to pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then working in through both the front and the back panel at the same time, we're going to sandwich them together and single crochet. So it's just going to be 1 single crochet in through every side row. So finding our first side row within the front panel, it should be a side Trinity stitch row. Find that top loop and insert within the front. Find that same first row within the back panel. Find that top loop and single crochet once. That's our first one. Now into the next, which is our side 1/2 double crochet row. Same thing. So find that side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop. Insert. Finding that same top loop within the back panel. Insert and single crochet. Then just 1 single crochet in through every side row till we don't have any more side rows left to work into. When we don't, chain 1, cut, and repeat on the other side. The shoulders are seamed. Now we're going to seam up our sides. So making sure that our work is still flipped wrong side out, meaning the seam for the shoulder is still along the outside, we're going to try our piece on. Then we're going to insert our stitch marker into any stitch for the width that we'd like for the sleeve to be. Now this can be as high or as low as you want, depends on the comfort of your sleeve. I went ahead and inserted mine into the 23rd stitch from the top. That's just about 7 inches or 18 centimeters for me. So a pretty comfy sleeve. Then insert your hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then yet another single crochet seam. So yarn over, pull through, chain 1 to secure. Then, kind of like the shoulder, but a little bit easier because there's already stitches for us, we're going to find that first stitch into the front panel, insert, first stitch into the back panel, insert, and single, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we reach our stitch marker. Now, for the way that we're going to do our sleeve, once we reach our stitch marker, do not cut because then we can work straight into the sleeve together from there, because who wants extra tail ends? Not us. Seams, seamed. Now we're going to do our sleeve. Now the sleeve row is going to follow the same half double Trinity stitch row sequence as the body. But since this stitch pattern isn't reversible and we're going to start with a half double crochet row, working the first sleeve row with the wrong side facing out is the foolproof way to ensure the correct panel for the sleeve ends up facing outwards. So making sure that our seams are still along the outside, we're going to chain 2. Now that chain 2, not a stitch, just need the height. Now working into our armhole, we're going to half double crochet. But since our Trinity stitches are worked in an odd number, we're just going to start this with an increase. So yarn over, into that first available stitch into the armhole, just put 2 half doubles. There's 1, same stitch with another half double. Then 1 half double into every stitch, making our way all the way around. Half double crochet row, all done. Now we're going to connect it. Completing the row, all we're going to do is slip stitch into that second chain that we made when we start off the row. So here's my first. Here's my second. Into that second chain, insert, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. Now quick tip, when we pull our hook through, it does look like it gives us an extra stitch. Doesn't count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then the following row is a Trinity stitch row, so we're going to chain 1, and I'm going to flip my work right side out. Our work's now flipped right side out. As we can see, we are looking at the back of our half double crochet row and also for the rest of the body as well because we wanted to show the ribbing for the pattern that we did. It's all coming together. Now from here, we're just going to do our following Trinity stitch row in the rounds. So since we already chained 1, we're going to flip our work and just do our Trinity stitches all the way around. Then I'll meet you back to connect the beginning to the end of the row. Our Trinity stitch row is completed. To connect it, what we're going to do is kind of like the previous half double crochet row, just count up that 1 stitch that we made when we got started on the row and just slip stitch into there. That does connect the beginning to the end of the row, and it also looks like it gives us an extra stitch. It's not a stitch. Then from here, we're going to chain 2 and make sure that we flip our work after every row. When I say flip our work, I don't mean inside out, we're just turning it. We're going to do the following row in our row sequence, which now is a half double crochet row. And for the rest of the sleeve, we're just going to repeat these 2 previous rows with no increases, no decreases for the total sleeve length that you want. Completely customizable, so go ahead and get yours completed and I'll meet you guys back. We are now moving on to our collar because my baby sleeves are all done. I have a total of 4 rows. This is just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, and I went ahead and repeated on the other side. And the sleeves look like they're seamlessly blending into the texture of the top because that's how we wanted it to go. Small details. Now the next detail is going to add a refined accent to our overall bold design. It's going to bring the whole look into harmony and it's incredibly easy to do. So let's get started. We're going to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Then insert our hook into the corner stitch that we have into the neckline, making sure it's not within the slit. We're not going to work into there. Insert your hook in through that corner and insert your yarn onto your hook. We're going to pull through and start with a chain 1, but that's just as secure. Now I have a couple side rows to work into, so what we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets in through each of these side rows, starting with 1. So this is my first side row right here, which should be a side Trinity stitch row for every size. We're going to find that top loop, which is probably the same stitch that our chain 1 is in, and insert with just 1 single crochet. This is our following side row, which is a side half double crochet row. We're going to find that top loop and then insert into there with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, into the same top loop with a second. We're doing that because that stitch is just a hair taller because it's an increase. And into that next, which is our side Trinity, insert with just one. Into this next side half, which is an increase, we're going to insert with two. We're going to continue this until we reach our stitches, then just one single crochet into every stitch. And working across our back panel, we're going to put one single crochet in through every side row. So the same way that we did our shoulder seam. And we're only putting one single crochet in through every side row within the back because we don't want the back to become too wide. We'd still like for the neckline to sit at the edge of our neck. So we have just prepped for our collar. Now we're going to work on the length of our collar from where we're at. Make a chain the length that we'd like for the collar to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 3 inches or 8 centimeters. So I'm going to start by making chain 12. We have our chain. Now we're going to half double crochet back down. So block off that last chain and chain 2. And into that chain that we blocked off for the third chain from our hook, insert with our first half double and make your way down with one half double crochet into every chain. We've made our way down with our half doubles. Now we're going to connect it into the base, which was that single crochet row that we just did. So what we're going to do, pretty simple, is just find that next stitch. So this is my next available stitch right here. Just insert in through there with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch into the base doesn't count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then we are going to work our way up to the following row by slip stitching up that next available stitch into the base as well. Again, that slip stitch into the base doesn't count as a stitch. That one is basically like our turning chain, and now we're going to flip our work. And now just put one half double crochet into every stitch. So as a quick tip, make sure that we're not working in through any of those slip stitches into the base, because remember, those aren't stitches. So just one half double crochet into the top of that last stitch from our previous row, there you go, and make your way down with one half double crochet into every stitch. And you may be wondering, hey, why are we just slip stitching into the next stitch into the base? We're just slip stitching into the next stitch into the base because we would like for the base to be as small as possible so that the outside of the collar can be wide and kind of fan out around us. Our row 2 is completed. Now to do our row 3, chain 3, flip our work, and just put one half double crochet into every stitch. Then I'll meet you back to connect it into the base just once more. Row 3, done. Now just to connect it into the base again, remember, just into that next available stitch, insert with a slip stitch, doesn't count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and repeat. We're going to continue to repeat these 2 previous rows until we have the totality of our collar. So until we reach this last stitch at this corner. Once we do a chain up 1 and cut. Perfect, our collar is complete. Now for the finishing touch that makes all the difference, the slip stitch bottom band. It's going to give our top that professional polished look. So taking a look at the bottom, we're going to make sure the work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Insert your hook into any one of the side rows along the bottom of your piece. Then we're going to single crochet along the bottom to create a base for that slip stitch bottom band that we're going to do. And that's just going to be single crochets in through every side row. Same exact way that we did the top of the back panel and the shoulder seam. So I'm not going to bore you guys with those details. Just insert your yarn onto your hook. One single crochet in through every side row that we have, making our way all the way around. And just as a really quick tip, this single crochet row is going to be as wide as it can stretch. So once when it's completed, try it on. If it's a little bit too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. Single crochet row, checked off the list. Now we have slip stitched into that chain space. Now we're going to make a chain the length that we'd like for the bottom band to be. You can make this as long or as short as you'd like. I'd like for mine to be just about 3 inches or 8 centimeters. So just like my collar, that's just a coincidence by the way, I'm going to start by making a chain 12. Now that we have our chain, we're going to slip stitch all the way down. Now for this first slip stitch row, we're going to block off that last chain in chain 1. We're going to slip stitch into the back bump, which does sound a little intimidating, but it's the exact same thing. We're just inserting our hook into the back bumps of our chain. So into that chain that we blocked off, the second chain from our hook, we're going to kind of flip our work over a little bit and find all of these back bumps, like this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and so on and so forth. We're going to insert our hook into that back bump. So we might need to wiggle our hook through just a smidge, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. That is our first back bump slip stitch. Again, into that next stitch is back bump. Insert, yarn over, and gently pull through everything. We want to make sure that we're not pulling through too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the following row can be a little too tight to work into, but also we're working into the back bumps so that when we seam it, doing our outside loop slip stitch seam, we have front and back loops to work into just to make that seam look like another back loop slip stitch row, because if you flip your work over, the bottom looks like regular stitches, just like the top does. And just make your way down with one slip stitch into every chain. Our first slip stitch row is all done. Now we're going to connect it into the base. The connection into the base is actually going to be done exactly the same way that the collar is. So just finding that next available stitch into the base. Slip stitch into there, so just pull through everything. That slip stitch into the base, again, doesn't count as a stitch, that's just a connect. Then we need to work our way up to the following row, so slip stitch up that following stitch into the base as well, and flip our work. Now to get that nice knit-like look, we're going to be working into the back loops. So finding the first stitch from our previous row, making sure we're not working into any of the slip stitches into the base, insert into that back loop, yarn over, and gently pull through everything. That's our first back loop slip stitch. Again, next stitch is back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us. Insert, and gently pull through. We're going to continue with one back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain one, flip our work, and put one back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. Then I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. We've made our way down with our rows 1, 2 is this raised row, and then 3. Now we're going to connect it into the base just once more. So just finding that next available stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and again, one back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and that's it. Right now we're going to repeat these 2 previous rows. No increases, no decreases, and just make your way all the way around. Once we don't have any more stitches left, I'll meet everyone back so we can finish everything up with our outside loop slip stitch seam. We are doing so well. We're almost done. In about 5 minutes, we're going to have our new fall staple. So now we're just going to seam everything up. Our outside loop slip stitch seam is going to look like another back loop slip stitch row, so we're going to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Then insert our hook into the corner stitches. Then yarn over, pull through everything on our hook. Then finding the first stitch into the front panel, take a look at the top of our stitches. There's a front loop and a back loop. We're going to insert our hook only in through that front loop. Then into the next stitch into the back panel, we're going to take a look at that next stitch and insert only in through that back loop. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and gently pull through all 3, and that is our outside loop slip stitch seam. Once more, next stitch into the front, we're going to insert only in through that front loop, next stitch into the back, insert only into that back loop, yarn over and pull through everything, and that is it. Just continue seaming this up until we don't have any more stitches left, then cut. Our outside loop slip stitch seam is complete, and now, so is our top. The last thing I have to do is simply weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Thanks for watching and hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Enter this week's pattern giveaway if you guys watch any vintage shows. I always watch I Love Lucy, but a new show we started watching is City Hunters. Details for the giveaway down below. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or X. Those links are down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!